Welcome back. Today's story filled with drama and unexpected turns. Hit like, subscribe, and let's jump in.
Hello, my name is Aaron, and I want to tell you about why I'm sitting in my kitchen at 4:45 p.m. on a Thursday, when I would ordinarily be at work. You see, I simply want to justify the 4 phone calls and 1 text message I've sent while I've been sitting here, 2 hours now, 1 hour and 50 minutes of stewing, and 10 minutes of action that damaged, God knows how many lives. You see, pardon me, there is someone at the door. Oh, hello, honey. Where is Sophie? I called Ethan, and he came home early. He'll get her up from daycare and care for her until I return home. Lila, I've said it before, but I'll say it again, he's a fantastic person. I know it's customary for a man to detest his son-in-law, but you chose so beautifully that I can't help but like him. I laughed at my daughter's gloomy grimace. We both had a sense of humor. Dad, have you told Daniel yet? No, your brother is now at sea. I will email him later. Okay, Dad, I'm here for you, you know that. Yeah, thanks sweetie, I responded, and we were silent for a long time. Why would she do this to you, Father? I don't know, darling. Why wasn't she saying anything? I haven't actually spoken to her yet. Do you mean she is still? Yep. I observed my daughter's worried gaze go to the stairs leading up to the master bedroom. I just wanted to wait so she could tell us all why she did it at the same time. Okay, I've invited a couple more visitors. They should be here soon. What are you planning to do? No more and no less than I have to, so I can survive this. So, do you already have a plan? Yep. Doesn't it depend on her reasoning? Facts speak for themselves. The explanation is unimportant, nonetheless, she may have been blackmailed. Believe me, if you saw and heard what I did, you'd know she wasn't being blackmailed. Lila glanced into my eyes for a minute. I thought you were handling things well, but now I see you aren't. Are you in? No, I turned aside. No daughter should see her father cry. What do you want me to do? You follow your conscience. I won't think any better or worse of you regardless of your decision. Thank you, Dad. Do you know why she would do this? I have no clue, sweetheart. I thought we had a good marriage until this morning. What happened this morning? Well, your mother's always been bad at lying and maintaining secrets. It's just not her nature. After 25 years of living together, I know her habits as well as my own. She takes a shower every morning. Every Friday and Sunday, she shampoos her hair. She'll be preparing for 5 minutes more or less than an hour. Every other day, she spends 5 minutes or less than 30 minutes in there. This morning, she spent over an hour and a half in there. When I walked in to warn her she'd be late for work, I noticed her underwear and what she planned to wear. It was not her typical business attire. I asked her what she had planned for the day, and she answered, nothing extraordinary, just work. She was lying. Every other day, she worried she'd be late for work. She became upset. This morning, she was calm as a cucumber. I knew she had no intention of going to work. Well, what did you do? I called off work and parked just up the street. I planned to follow her after she went, but she didn't go anywhere. I waited until 11:45, when the men she works with at the creative agency arrived. I snuck in and established that everything was as intended, then considered what I would do next. I made a few phone calls, and here we are. Had there been any hints before today? I mean, what happened before this? There was nothing, darling, as far as I knew. I loved her, and she loved me. We planned to work for a few more years, then retire and live happily ever after. Dad, I have to ask you this, did you ever? Don't even mention it, Lila. No, I have never deceived your mom. I've never degraded a lady like that in my life. Even when our sex life came to an end a few years ago, I simply accepted it. What? You haven't had sex in 2 years? Nope. Your mother was never an overtly sexual person. She assumed she simply didn't appreciate it as much. Sure, she appeared to love it when we first started, but there was when the difficulty began. When she went through menopause 2 years ago, everything I used to get dried up altogether. So, when you found her today, you know it must have hit you hard. I let my steely glare speak for me. Just then, there was another faint tap at the door. I opened it and saw my father-in-law standing there. Come in, Edward. Thank you, Aaron. Where is she? Upstairs, in our bedroom. Okay. I need to see for myself. I understand. Go ahead, sir, but please do not disturb her. The elderly guy climbed the steps and descended a minute later, but he was considerably older. He sank in a chair. I poured him some whiskey, which he swallowed down. I cannot believe she would do that to you. She understands how distraught you were when your fiancé cheated on you. After all, she helped you pick up your pieces. She understands how devastated I was when I caught her mother and she fled, abandoning me and the children. I'm sorry, I have to leave here. I suppose a lady shouldn't watch her grandfather weep either. I escorted him to the door. Lila motioned to follow us, but I waved her off. I wanted the elderly man to save whatever dignity he had left. He stood on the porch, holding my shoulders for support. Do whatever you need to do, kid, but nothing physical, okay? I couldn't stand by and see that. Do not worry, Edward. I will not damage your daughter's hair. But, for the other, I apologize for what I'm going to do to your daughter. A man must do what is necessary. He gave me a long gaze before nodding. He stumbled into his vehicle and drove slowly away, a shattered man. I called his kid, my wife's brother, and, without going into detail, advised he go visit his father for assistance. I had just hung up when I heard the above toilet flush. Oh, sleep time must be gone. I rejoined Lila, and we sat quietly for a few minutes. We heard a bed crack and the noises of passion. Look, Lila, does it seem like blackmail to you? No, father. How can you bear to sit here? Why don't you go up and beat them jerks? It's not easy, honey, but I have the capacity to shut off my emotional side. I kind of remove myself from all of the sensations, you know. Oh, is that where I got it? So, why torment yourself? Why not go up and stop it? Kick the jerk out. There's one more visitor to come right on cue, I told him. There was another knock at the door. I handed it to a decent-looking woman a few years younger than myself. Surprisingly, she had both a boy and a girl with her. They seemed to be in their mid to late teens. Mr. Gray, is it? Yes, please call me Aaron. I'm Megan Cole, and these are my children, Oliver and Ivy. I took them up from school. If what you claim is true, I wanted them here for one reason, to realize that it was their father who ruined our family. I shook hands with Oliver. It was surprisingly firm. I introduced everyone to Lila. You claimed you had evidence, Aaron. In response, I strolled over to the jeans on the arm of the sofa and took out a wallet. I gave it to Megan. She opened it and examined the driver's license. A tear fell from her eye. I suppose she had hoped that what I had stated on the phone was incorrect. Her expression stiffened instantly. Okay, Aaron, where are they? In response, I just placed my finger to my lips, forming the universal gesture for quiet. We sat and listened to the moans and groans. I am the son of a witch. You have not faced them yet. No. I wanted us to work together, as it were. I just recorded some footage for us, which I'm delighted to share with you. I also put up a voice recorder and placed it under the bed. We may go now if you wish. I recommend that the youngsters stay back until we can get the performances respectable. Yes, you're correct. Just wait a minute. I have a locksmith ready to replace the locks on my residence. I was just waiting to make sure you were correct before letting them go. I'm not shocked, really. It's not the first time. He is a smooth-talking little fool. Lila and I calmly waited as she called the locksmith, then her lawyer, and gave them both the go-ahead. We diverted her children from the loudness by conversing about trivial matters. Megan then pushed her shoulders backward. Okay, let's do this. Megan, Lila, and I climbed the steps while the kids waited at the bottom for our signal. After Megan peered through the doorway, I signaled for the other two to remain out of sight before entering the room. I stood at the foot of the bed, disgustedly watching the spectacle. What I'd seen earlier was strictly missionary, now he was taking her dog. I stood there passively as he plowed into her. She expressed her gratitude by groaning incessantly. She has refused to perform doggy with me since soon after the wedding. She described it as humiliating. She screamed out in climax and fell on the bed. He gave her a chance to recuperate before ramming into her prone body. Stop, please, Liam. I am sore. Allow me to finish you with my lips. She hadn't done it to me since the rock struck her right-hand ring finger. She shifted onto her back. As she turned over, her gaze met mine. Her face dropped, and she yelled. Her partner followed her glance and saw me too. He began to rise, seeming ludicrous with his meat hanging loose. When he got to his feet, he He paused and glanced up at my face. I could see he was beginning to have concerns about his physical safety in the coming moments. That's right, I'm bigger and uglier than you, and please believe me, a lot angrier. Why don't you just get back in that bed and cover yourself and my ex-wife? He was, at the very least, an obedient dog. Within seconds, they were sleeping side by side under the blankets. I saw that Iva's countenance had changed from astonishment to defiance. I let her talk first. Aaron, I want a divorce. I have fallen in love with Max, the man here. I'm sorry you had to find out like way. We were planning to inform you tomorrow. It's all right, wife dear, you've got this. By the way, I was going to find out his name was Chris Turner eventually, right? I could see they were stunned. It's not the best idea to leave your wallet in your jeans pocket downstairs. Sophia, simply an idle curiosity, but why did you terminate our marriage in this manner? You had to know that finding me cheating would be devastating. Finally, I saw some embarrassment on her face. I apologize, Aaron. We couldn't avoid falling in love. I accept it, sweetheart. However, you may assist by placing the cart before the horse. You could have helped this guy before declaring your intention to divorce him, right? I apologize, Aaron. I simply wanted to see whether Max and I were compatible, you know. We did not want you to see us. If it helps, this was my first time. What? Maybe test drive the new model. Try him on for size. Don't be crude, Aaron. I don't want to wind up arguing in our marriage. Can't we simply part as friends? This almost penetrated my mental shields. I'm betting she's reciting from tomorrow's pre-rehearsed speech since she's under pressure. You have got to be joking. You want to break our friendship while you lay in my bed with another guy's cum dripping down your leg? I do not think so. We looked at one another until Sophia lowered her gaze. I felt it was time to start smoothing out the pain score. Your father requested me to tell you how disappointed he is in you. He hoped you wouldn't end up being as jerk as your mother. You did not. Sophia's face had become sheet white. I did. I am amazed you did not notice him. He was standing precisely here less than half an hour ago. Why? Because, I wanted you to experience some of the misery I've been experiencing since your jerk came up. I'm not sure what the kids will make of it all. Oh, God, Aaron, please don't tell the kids. Sorry, dear, too late. Lila appeared in the doorway at just that time. Sophia looked over at the movement, shrieked, and then covered her face beneath the blankets. Do not bother, Mom. It doesn't work for ostriches, therefore it won't work for you. Sophia merely remained beneath the blankets, groaning. Her sleeping companion continued appearing uneasy. When Edward called, I gave you the benefit of the doubt. I could not believe you would do this to him. I realize why he called me now. If I hadn't witnessed it with my own eyes, I may have asked him to forgive you. But seeing you like this, I know that will never happen. The only response was silence, accompanied by deep-racking sobs. Well, Mother, if you have nothing else to say, you'll say it all. We will not need you to babysit your granddaughter this weekend. In fact, if preventing you from seeing her would protect her from your toxic influence, you may say goodbye to ever seeing her again. There was a pathetic sound from under the blankets. You should have seen the look on poor old Granddad's face before you devastated him. She started to flee, but I caught her and embraced her. She backed away and rushed downstairs. Soon later, we all heard the front door bang. Sophia returned a few minutes later, her eyes red. Why did you need to do that, Aaron? Because you haven't endured half of my anguish yet, Sophia. You have not yet felt as if your heart has been torn out and trodden on, but you will. I promise you of that. Now I'm tired of this sham. Just get the hell out of my house, both of you. Sophia's face took on another defiant expression. If anyone is leaving this house, it's going to be you. I have the power of attorney you gave me in case anything happened to you to transfer the deeds into my name only. I believe Sophia was astonished by the vehemence of her own voice. She could see by my expression that disclosing another of her betrayals had made me more furious. She also recognized that ethically, she was only digging her grave deeper and deeper. I recovered soon. The weird thing about surprising news is that it stops hurting at a certain point. I had reached that stage 2 hours earlier. Sophia, how are you going to finance the mortgage? Do you think we didn't figure it out? Aaron, with my income and commissions, plus Max's, we can easily afford it. What's the salary, Sophia? Your supervisor, Mr. Peterson, told me to inform you both that you had been sacked. He would have informed you personally, but it seems that both of your phones are turned off. Good Christian soul that he is, he did not approve of two married idiots like you cheating on company time. You did not tell him, Aaron. Tell me you did not. Yep, sent him some lovely photographs too. Sophia's bedmate eventually found his voice. How do you know I am married? Do you remember your driver's license? Phone book and telephone. Easy. My wife, Megan. About 56 with lovely red hair. Children, Oliver and Ivy. They seem like wonderful kids. Were you going to shaft them like this, too? Was this scumbag going to shaft me? Please, Mr. Gray, don't tell my wife. Why not? Haven't you completed depleting all of your bank accounts in preparation for sailing off into the sunset with my wife? She was going to get the home. Please give me an opportunity to inform her gently. Please. She does not deserve this. I still love her, in my own way. Well, she doesn't deserve to find out like way, right? Yes, you're correct. Unfortunately, it is too late. I didn't have to turn around to see when Megan and her children entered. His expression conveyed the narrative. The look was priceless. Yes, it's way too late, my darling husband. I will be eternally grateful for Mr. Gray here, bringing this to my attention. Just so you know, the video he's giving me should be enough to trigger the post-nup we had drawn up last time I forgave you. Sophia had turned to face her bed companion. In my disoriented condition, I wondered whether it was the knowledge that he was a habitual cheater, or the news that their financial goals had been thwarted. My house's locks should have been replaced by now. If you wish to come over in the morning to get your belongings, they will be in the trash. I plan to hire a locksmith this afternoon. Throughout everything, Max had only glanced at his own feet with terror. Later, I discovered that he was the one who had first seduced Sophia. But the test drive was her idea. His goal had been to inform his wife and family the next day as well. He stared forlornly at his wife, then briefly at his children, but couldn't face them for very long. Megan was losing control, but she recovered temporarily. Well, kids, if you ever wondered what a jerk looks like, then take a good look. Sophia shuddered beneath their combined gaze. Megan grabbed the children and stormed away. I made my way to the bed and yelled at the pair, just get out of my house. You have no idea of the rage I'm feeling right now. I'll return in 2 hours, and I want you both gone when I get back. Don't even think about trying to rip me off, Sophia. If you do, then your chances of living happily ever after, make that living period, will plummet from very, very small to non-existent. Understand? One glance at my face told them of the severity of my intentions. I hurried after Megan and caught up with her before they drove away. We promised to meet at a coffee shop, and we did. We consoled each other and attempted to guide the children through the process. Oliver showed maturity beyond his years, comforting his grieving sister. I really wish her father was here to see his daughter's pain, I said. I gave Megan my card and promised to assist her with whatever she needed. We parted as friends. I suppose the next week was quite difficult. Yes, I can switch off my emotions during a crisis, yet, this does not alleviate the pain, rather, it merely delays it. Sure, I was swamped with work and attorneys. They were quite intrigued in my evidence, especially the voice recorder I found beneath the bed. It had picked up on quite excellent discussions in which the two lovers outlined the depth of their plans to seize the bulk of the marital assets of both families. Sophia justified it as her prerogative and due to my earning capabilities. Sure, the presumption in divorces is an equal division, but my lawyer reminded me that judges had the ability to deviate from this, and proof of pre-planned skullduggery often persuaded them that way. Megan insisted on hearing the tapes, as well. We were both taken aback by her mother's deliberate vindictiveness. Megan really called her mother for an explanation, but nothing convinced her that it wasn't all terrible. I put up a good front for Megan and a strong voice for my son when he called, but I was suffering. Megan called me the weekend following the event, which was extremely nice. She was delighted to mow her own lawn, but had no clue how the mower operated. After several lessons on Sunday and some other minor maintenance tasks, I was asked to remain for supper. We were still talking when the kids went to bed. Then things became serious. Megan, how are you traveling? About as good as you could hope, Aaron. Thank you for inquiring. I believe I have been psychologically preparing myself for this for years. Deep down, I knew it would happen again. My attorneys uncovered what he had planned for our money and halted everything. I couldn't believe the little brat was about to leave us almost destitute. My lawyer is informing me that owing to your proof and the postnup, I will get the home, child support, and alimony, as well as 90% of the assets. Happy to be of service, Jen. My lawyer suggested something similar, but just for 50 to 70% of the assets. He came over 2 days ago and begged. I believe his attorneys told him the same things mine did, and the prospect of being financially screwed scares him. I told him to piss off. The only thing that bothers me is the impact on the children. Ivy is at an age where she can grow normally without a father, but I am concerned about Oliver. I understand, Jen, that a youngster at his age needs a solid, strong masculine role model. I have been thinking about it. Can I volunteer for the job? I'd be thrilled to enter his life and serve him in any way I could. Megan remained quiet for a long time. I could see the struggle on her face. I know your ego must be a little fragile at the moment, Aaron, so I don't quite know. Don't worry about it, Jennifer. I'm just providing Oliver my support for now. I could see the relief flit over her face. We spoke about specifics for a while. How about you, Aaron? Are you okay? I do not know, Jen. I'm still puzzled as hell. I'm not sure what I done to make her detest me so much. Finding her with your Chris left me feeling emasculated. It makes me question my own masculinity. Was I that incompetent at that? I honestly don't know. Destroying her bond with her children, her father, and most likely our shared acquaintances, paired with getting her fired, does not appear to be enough. I still feel like half a man. Believe me, I know exactly how you feel, Aaron, Megan said him. She gazed at me for another long while, clearly considering what to say to herself. Finally, she said, you understand what you need to do to recover your masculinity, Aaron. Megan looked at me with steely eyes. Yes I do, Jen. Good. How far do you feel okay with me going? Yent steel was suddenly evident in her voice. Hell really hath no fury like a woman scorned. Aaron, I am willing to go as far as you believe you need to go to free yourself of your demons. You are too wonderful a man to let any lingering pain interfere with the rest of your life. Let it all out, Aaron. Okay, you'll need an alibi. You will have one. Believe me. When she told me what she had in mind for an alibi, we both laughed a lot. Oh, I needed it. We continued our chat, but it was only halfway over. How about me, Jen? Do you feel you need to get vengeance on Sophia? Good Lord, no. I know what a smooth-talking little jerk he can be. Your poor lady did not have a chance. I almost felt sorry for her. We parted ways as friends, and she promised to speak with Oliver about if he was interested in helping me repair an old automobile. He was, and it established the pattern for the following 6 weeks. He would come over to my house after school and we would tinker. I took advantage of every chance to discuss my views with him, and we became close friends. After I got him home, everything changed. I spent all my spare time spying on the happy couple. Chris and Sophia were unable to purchase a home because our bank accounts had been blocked by the attorneys. Sophia was staying with one of her few surviving pals. Chris did the same with one of his. They spent most nights together before parting ways late at night. Finally, I had established enough of a pattern that I called Megan one Thursday night and told her that the following night was it. She arranged for the kids to spend the night with her parents. I went to her home and parked in her driveway. Then, after a peck on the lips and a give him one from me, I rolled Chris' old motorcycle out the back gate and started it a block away from her home. One at his friend's house, I checked about before softly shooting out the streetlight with my air gun. After then, it was merely a question of waiting in the bushes behind his friend's driveway. He astonished me by breaking the norm. He came by taxi 40 minutes later than his automobile. When I saw his wobbly feet walking down the driveway, I realized why he had been drinking. Now, king hitting has never been in my nature. My sense of honor required a fair fight, or, at the very least, as fair as seducing a guy's wife while he had no idea you existed. I stepped in front of him. Hi, Chris. He froze. Then, in the faint light, I saw recognition dawning in his eyes. He definitely didn't respond the way I expected. Well, they don't call it Dutch courage for nothing, I suppose. Well, if it isn't the guy that couldn't keep his woman in check. He made a really stupid move. My carefully devised strategy of a limited attack was quickly abandoned. The incorrect animal pounced. A straight to the jaw sent him to his hands and knees. Then my memories became foggy. According to subsequent accounts, I kicked him in the ribs a few times, stopped his kidneys and lower legs, and then delivered a couple well-aimed kicks between his legs. Doesn't it have a few covers ranging from 3 to 10? Fortunately, my crimson haze cleared, enabling me to finish the last step of my plan. I grabbed his lifeless body and threw him in the middle of the street. Perhaps the cops would mistake him for another unlucky hit-and-run victim. Perhaps not. I returned on the motorcycle and went to a retail mall in the darkness. I changed clothes and threw them, along with my gloves, into a garbage. Finally, I cycled a block away from Megan's home before pushing the bike back. Megan was eagerly expecting my return and interrogated me about how things had gone. She didn't appear bothered that I had overstepped my plan in my wrath. People who are upset do not usually smile like Cheshire cats when she has everything in order. I excused myself to take a shower and get rid of any possible proof. I examined my knuckles for bruises, all were okay. My eyes were closed while I rinsed my hair when I felt a chilly wind, followed by warm flesh. A set of arms wrapped around me from behind. I thought you didn't want this. Screw what I want. You need this. You've got the guy, now you need to get his women. I spun around and we kissed. Oh, I needed it. We ultimately split up. Besides, when the cops arrive to verify your alibi, I want to be as convincing as possible. Now finish up, you magnificent crazy, and go into the bedroom. Who am I to ignore a lattice request? Still wet, I flung her on the bed and claimed her. I am normally proud of my status as a lover, but there was none of that tonight. I pushed her to her limits. If I'm to judge, she enjoyed it as well. I awakened in the early morning light as I felt her slide back into bed. She cuddled close to me. I apologize, Jen, I was exhausted last night. I hope you're not too disappointed. If that was you in second gear, God help me if I ever get into third. We both drifted out for a few more minutes. I awakened to the delivery of food and coffee. Hey, Aaron. Some guy damaged your car's rear glass last night. I've already called the police. This was followed by a wink. Sure enough, the cops arrived, and my license plate was recorded into their system. It was quickly connected to a suspected possible attack from the night before. It was handy that my alibi and I were in the same home, which smelled like sex. The nosy neighbor confirmed our claim that my vehicle was parked there at the time of the attack, as it had been once a week for the previous 6 months. She was not to know that I was not in the spare room as usual. I was never considered a serious suspect. I saw Sophia once again approximately a week after her lover's horrible night. She called to say she was coming over to retrieve the remainder of her belongings. When I told her that everything had been given to charity, she still wanted to chat. When I heard her vehicle arrive, I peeked out the window and saw Sophia on the phone next to her car. I answered the door wearing my dressing robe. When she eventually knocked, she grimaced at my outfit, but I made sure my expression said nothing as I let her inside. I asked her to give over her phone and purse, then placed them in the spare room and locked the door. She was astute enough to realize that I believed she may attempt to videotape this chat. With what she was wearing, she couldn't be hiding one under her clothing. We slid on seats on each side of the kitchen table. Aaron, you should know that I've arranged with a friend that if I don't call within 60 minutes, she'll send the police here. I nodded, acknowledging her sensible care, but kept mute. I just had one thing to tell her, and it could wait. Aaron, could I just express how sad I am for how our marriage ended? Save your breath, Sophia. I'm not interested in sitting here and listening to you try to soothe your guilt by rationalizing why you attempted to ruin me. The look on her face was priceless. I was like, who is this guy? Okay, Aaron, you were the one who beat up Max, right? Yes, I said. That took her totally off guard. She clearly expected me to refute it. What is so difficult to grasp, Sophia? You inquired whether I had beaten up Max. I said, yes, it was me. But why? He had never done anything to you. Come on, Sophia, adulterous sex cannot have damaged your brain that quickly. When I watched you open your legs for him, it absolutely emasculated me, damaged my confidence as a man, made me question my capacity to please a woman, and stripped me of my pride. She was astonished. In thinking she hadn't considered this element of her actions. That is what cheating accomplishes, you know. After a time, I recognized that I had two options. I might become a sad, lonely old man like your father, a sexless, empty hulk, or I could battle my way out of the corner you and your boyfriend forced me into. Is it surprising that I picked the man's option? The only alternative that would keep me a man. Does it? I asked. Yes, I ruined your guy, and if it is necessary for me to keep my head up, I will do it again and again. Sophia, you pushed the show down. There can be just one survivor. To prevent you and him from harming me, I must eliminate you both. The statements were delivered with such calm, frightening conviction that they left no space for dispute. Sophia's face contorted in astonishment and amazement as she attempted to grasp what I had just said. She paused, her voice wavering as she tried to comprehend the gravity of the situation. But I believed that by separating me from friends and family and firing me, you would be done with me. Chris and I have recently fallen in love, Aaron. We couldn't help it. Can you remember being in love? I inquired, cutting her off. Yes, I can recall 8 weeks ago. But, that day. Maybe you didn't choose to fall in love, but you did choose how you handled it. If you had just come to me and said, Aaron, I've fallen in love with someone else, I want a divorce, I would have been sorry, but I would have happily given you your freedom or battled to reclaim your love, whichever I chose at the moment. You declared war on me when you announced your plans in such a violent and terrible manner. You betrayed all I believed you stood for. How about now, Aaron? Can you now give Chris and myself some privacy? You've gotten your revenge. Yes, I believe I can. If only because I don't know what else to ruin. Thank you, Aaron, she muttered. Do not get enthusiastic, Sophia. I am not the one you should be concerned about. What do you mean? No, I've taken my vengeance on Johnny Boy. His wife hasn't begun with you yet. If I were you, I'd watch out for her. She's a nasty woman, I can tell you. At that point, a disembodied female voice floated down the stairs from the master bedroom. Aaron, will you return to bed? You promised me 6 orgasms every day, and you came in under budget. Who is that? Sophia let out a gasp. Megan, I said, already rising. She raced beside me, yelling a warning not to go to the police again. I walked the stairs to meet Megan, who was completely clothed. She held me till the shake stopped. Sophia, on the other hand, fled to far lands, and I never attempted to locate or contact her again. As I previously said, my name is Aaron, and I am quite happy. I heard somewhere that some individuals who seek vengeance on those who have mistreated them find the experience empty. However, it was the most effective remedy for depression that I had ever heard of. Screw it. It's time to quit obsessing on the past. It's too pessimistic. My new existence awaits. Megan and I never became an item. We did utilize each other to release our tensions on a daily basis, but there was never the essential spark to go to the next level. We were excellent friends, however, and watched out for one another. Oliver and Ivy did well with our joint coaching. However, when possible lovers approached Ivy, I stepped away and kept out of her bed until their relationship ended. 1 or 2 of them were terrified by me because I warned them that if they injured her in any manner, they would have to account to me. He sought for my approval before proposing to her the final time. He was a wonderful person, and I gladly blessed their relationship. The wedding was quite emotional. With her father gone, Ivy requested me to accompany her down the aisle. At the ceremony, she introduced me to an old friend of hers who had flown in with Megan and me. After completing self-administered treatment, I was able to maintain a regular relationship and am now contemplating asking Megan to marry me at my wedding. So, why not? Would I have healed enough to live a regular life if I hadn't exacted revenge on the 2 cheaters? Hell no. Let's take a look at the narrative from Sophia's perspective. Hello, my name is Sophia, and my life has gone to hell in a handbasket during the past 2 years. I believe I can excuse what I did back then, but it will take some time to justify what I did last week. Sorry, I'll explain. Looking back, my life with Aaron was pleasant, but it had become monotonous. The only excitement I had left was my first grandchild, so when Chris expressed interest in me as a woman, I felt like a teenager all over again. What can I say? He was attentive and considerate. He swept me off my feet. I knew it was wrong, but it felt so amazing. Our relationship followed the typical routine of chats, dates, and making out. I don't recall ever feeling guilty. By the time we crossed the line and kissed, I knew we both loved one another. We intended to leave our separate marriages and marry. Grace, a friend of mine, went through a complicated divorce and detailed how her ex took control of all the assets from the start, making it impossible for her to even hire a lawyer. That is why Chris and I secretly took control of everything. I had no idea how his wife would react, but I was very certain Aaron would be unhappy. We had frequently discussed what constituted cheating, and I knew I was going to go way over the line even before Chris and I made our declaration. I fully meant to give Aaron whatever the courts required after the divorce. I simply wanted to be in control and avoid vengeance. Grace also asked me whether I had slept with Chris yet. ID never really loved lovemaking, but a female has to believe she's still feminine enough to be sexually desirable. I knew my spouse still liked me since he often nagged me for a hug. If ID still felt the same spark for Aaron as I had for Chris, the entire situation might have been averted. So, Grace raised uncertainties in my mind. What if Chris' penis was little or only lasted 5 seconds? When I did need sex, I wanted it to be enjoyable, didn't I? Sex was an emotional rather than bodily experience for me at the time. I didn't anticipate Chris to perform as well as Aaron. Aaron was thoughtful, sensitive, and filled me up well. That is what prompted my ultimate, devastating betrayal of my marriage. My first session with Chris was therefore a 2-part exercise, one to test him out, and the other as a last bonding activity to prepare us for the emotionally challenging things we had planned for the coming days. To be honest, I believe I wanted to have Chris complete attention so he wouldn't cancel our plans. Even then, I sensed he was rather a weak person. I know what you're thinking. Did I neglect the potential of being caught, causing Aaron to go ballistic? Did I consider the impact on my father and children? The short answer is no. I never expected to be apprehended, and if I was, I never anticipated Aaron's nuclear retaliation. I just forgot about the rest. Okay, I've never compared myself to my mother. I was so little when she left that she didn't factor into the equation. After all, what's the cost? I'd want to claim that my sex with Chris was mind-blowing, but it was not. He wasn't little, but he was no match for Aaron. He lasted a good period of time, but the fact that I dried up after a few minutes made it unpleasant. I felt myself feigning delight, exactly like I used to with Aaron. I have a question about men and their bloody egos. I still have no clue how Aaron learned about my one and only affair. It's just not significant to me. I was horrified when I noticed the pain in his eyes as he entered the room. I attempted to rationalize it to myself afterward, but I couldn't. Had never done anything even horrible enough to warrant it. My shame expressed itself briefly as resistance, but it did not endure long. The notion of my father seeing my violation, along with my daughter's remarks, destroyed me. Chris' daughter's eyes were nearly as awful. I had no clue my hubby could be so harsh. When the hospital phoned to inform me of Chris' hospitalization, I knew right once that Aaron was to blame. The physicians concluded that Chris' fractured jaw, concussion, bruised kidneys, 3 broken ribs, split tibia, and shattered groin were the result of a hit-and-run accident. I believe otherwise. That is why I called the police and provided them Aaron's name and vehicle plate number. When I called again 2 days later, they indicated he was no longer a person of interest. That's why I didn't leave Chris' side during the week he spent in the hospital. I realized he needed my protection. Until 8 weeks ago, if you had asked me whether Aaron could accomplish anything like that, I would have answered no. But for 20 minutes in my old bedroom, I saw a peek of the new monster, Aaron, a creature I knew I'd produced, a monster capable of unimaginable violence. Yes, I knew it was Aaron. That's why, soon before Chris was released, I called Aaron and agreed to meet at our old home. This had to end. Hadn't he experienced enough vengeance already? Chris and I were both devastated. Get beyond it. Walking up to my front door was sad, but not as terrible as I expected the discussion to be. How had I gone from liking a guy to considering him an adversary in such a short period of time? Before I rang the doorbell, I called Grace and informed her that if she didn't hear from me within 1 hour, she should contact the police. Aaron answered the door wearing his dressing robe. Unusual. He wore no emotion as he beckoned me inside. When he asked for my phone and purse, I scolded myself for not having brought a recorder. Then I wondered why he would never confess to the attack. I looked momentarily at the stranger I'd known for over 25 years. I did feel regret about how our marriage ended. I was telling how I'd fallen in love, trying to alleviate his anguish and maybe get him to back off a bit. But he cut me off as soon as I started speaking. He was not interested in the why. His tone was severe, and his facial expression was blank. Who was this guy? I didn't recognize the face or voice. I was startled when he confessed to beating up Chris. When I heard his motive, I understood precisely why he had done it. Let me just say that it didn't make me feel any better. I honestly didn't see why Aaron despised Chris so much. He promptly corrected me. I instantly realized how self-centered I'd become. It had blinded me and enabled me to justify something totally inappropriate. I instantly understood not only why we were being punished, but also, based on Aaron's look, that it was far from finished. My planned speech included a question about whether he recalled what love felt like. His response was like a dagger twisting in my belly. How else could a really kind person feel? Head asked. I knew I needed to run. My query regarding future vengeance was just to determine how far Erin had progressed. I had not regarded Chris' wife to be a physical danger until Erin's remark struck me with a sudden realization. I unexpectedly found myself in her shoes. What would I do if she treated me the same way I treated her? I got a shiver down my spine as I realized she was upstairs. I ran. I took Chris from the hospital, and we both fled. The divorces were completed. The documentation was sent to our P.O. box, which is 2 towns distant from my new house. The hardship of living anonymously, without friends, and always looking over my shoulder was immense. We had little money, but we both ultimately found work. The waiting was difficult. The only employment we could find were commission-only real estate positions. It had been a long time between drinks. Chris and I were married 6 months later. Looking back, we were 2 castaways placed together, which was a mistake. I also believe that being married allowed us to retroactively excuse the suffering we had caused so many others, including ourselves. My last collapse began innocently enough. Chris' one surviving testicle never worked. He was completely unable of achieving an erection. We could never afford the testosterone therapy needed to solve the condition, which made him grumpy, insecure, and envious. Let's face it, a marriage built on adultery is always going to be difficult. His grouchiness made me quite hostile as well. A buddy of mine advised HRT treatment since it had improved her comparable illness. I was concerned about the expense, but she explained that since it was used by every second woman over the age of 45, it was far less expensive than testosterone treatment. After one doctor's appointment, life restored to its blissful normal as if by magic. My doctor had informed me that one of the unwanted effects of estrogen pills was an increase in my libido. He stated it with a chuckle, as if it was excellent news. When it occurs to the wife of a guy with erectile dysfunction, the consequences are severe. I felt myself hornier than I had been in 5 years of marriage to Erin. Chris denied my pleadings for oral sex, and masturbation can only go you so far. I soon learned to keep my vibrators hidden from Chris since they would send him off. When the men at my new job expressed an interest in me, I couldn't help but reciprocate. He was far younger than me, which was quite flattering. Hiding our dates was really difficult. Chris, who was insanely envious, was much more difficult to dupe than Erin. The first time we kissed was like an electric shock, not because of the excitement, but because of the powerful déjà vu sensation it generated. I refused to go through that again. I refused to cheat. I pondered long and hard before coming up with a solution. It was far from ideal, but Chris had to appreciate my motivations, didn't he? So I sat Chris down Thursday night last week and, as gently as possible, informed him that I would not be home Friday night. I needed to take a lover. I'd be discreet, it was only sex, and I'd never rub his nose in it. I interpreted his quiet Thursday night and Friday morning as hesitant consent. After buying me supper and having a disappointingly brief sex session, my new boyfriend fell asleep in humiliation. I headed home to Chris' trailer. He was not there. The sound of sirens told me that daylight had exposed him dangling from a tree. I had done it again, ruined a guy. I prepared for the retaliation I knew he had planned. I was astonished to see that it simply included a suicide note and a letter to his attorney. The suicide letter was distributed to all of our pals, and they ditched me faster than an airline toilet. The letter to his attorney was to alter the beneficiary of his life insurance policy and his will from me to his children. When will I ever learn? Never disrespect a man's pride. Thank you for watching. What do you think of their choices? Let us know in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe.